Okay. Hello, friends. In this session, we will discuss the interview questions of React. So we have in the last session, we have discussed the multiple questions. Okay. So like we have discussed up to what are synthetic events, and we have discussed all these cycles, life cycle of the class component and portals. Okay. So now continue with these questions of this session. Okay. So we will discuss up to this in this session. Okay. So what do you understand by the refs in React? So the first question for this session is what do you understand by reference? So ref is basically reference. This is used to create a reference of an DOM element or a class component or a third party plug element means component. Okay. So you create the reference for any element or component so that you can easily control that component. Okay. So we basically use the reference to on the uncontrolled components or uncontrolled elements. Okay. So if you are using some uncontrolled elements or components, we use to create the reference for that component, and we use that reference to call or get value, or you have to add if you have to add some events. Okay. So basically, ref is used to create the reference. Okay. So the question is how we create in the functional component and how we create in the class component. So in functional component, we have hooks. Use ref. Basically, use ref is used to create the reference inside your component. And if you create the hook, reference with the hook, and you will have to use that reference on any element or any component. Okay, inside your function component. Okay. Similarly, in the class component, you have to use the call the create reference inside your constructor, and you will use that this dot reference inside your on any means element or child component inside your class component. Okay. Now the second question is what is the use of forward reference? Okay, forward ref. So we have in last question we have discussed about the reference. So now next is what is forward reference. So basically, if there is same situation like if you are using the reference in same component and you are creating the reference in the same component, then it is okay to use with the only reference. Okay, but if you are using the component, reference in another component, and you are creating the initializing or creating the reference in another component. So let's suppose you have two components separately, and you are creating the initialization means initializing in the first component, and you are using in the second component. Okay. So for that you have to forward your reference, whatever you have been initialized into the another component. So for that case you will require forward ref. Okay. So with the help of forward reference, you will just pass the object, refer object inside your second component. Okay. In that case, you will use this hook. If you are using the functional component, use imperative handle. Okay. To create your custom object. Okay. So now the next question is how what do you know about controlled and uncontrolled components? So control components are things. So controlled components are things which don't have their own state. We control it by making the state, and uncontrolled have their own state. Okay, so they manage by their own state. Okay, for that we will use reference. For uncontrolled components we use reference to control them, and controlled components have already you have events and event binding and something on that to get value or binding value and binding events. But in uncontrolled you don't have like that, so we have to use the use reference. Okay. What are HOC, high order components? High order components are just a normally function, okay, which returns a new component. Basically, this function takes input in simple function, and they just attach some behavior inside that component and create some new component and return them to you. Okay, so basically it's like take the input a component and gives output a new component, okay, which have some specific behavior. So this is used when you want to create uh, some common logic which you want to add use on multiple components. Let's suppose there is some behavior, but you don't want to write the same behavior in multiple components. So basically for that we just create a high order component function, and we will just pass the normal function, this normal component inside that, and we will get with that common behavior with them with inside the new component which are returned by the HOC. So the common examples are like if you are using the Redux, then you will see that connect. So basically connect is the higher order component example. Okay. The next question is, what is the significance of keys in React? So basically when we use the loop map, okay, array mapping, okay, so for that case we have to bind some unique key to that element, means that parent element on which the loop is going. Okay, so with the help of keys, React will easily find out if you want to change some record inside the array item. Okay, so the React will track easily if you give some unique ID, okay, as key. Okay, now the question is, what is Redux? So basically uh, you know that each component has its own state, but we have a single page application. So we may have one simple, means may not, means you can say you will definitely have a single component which is called main parent component. Okay, so all the child components will be inside nested. Okay, so it will be like a root, React root tree. Okay, so if you want to maintain the common state for all the components, okay, all the related components, for that we will use the Redux. Okay, so in Redux we have a common state, okay, for all the components, and we follow the one unidirectional data flow, and inside any component, if we use the Redux and we dispatch the action from them, then it goes to the reducer, and reducer will change the common state, and all the components will get the value from that common state. Okay, so we used to create the common state for the whole application. So if there will be another questions like that, how do you manage your application's level state? So and so the answer will be, using the Redux we can manage the application level state. The next question is, what is React router? So basically router means we will use the routing. For routing purpose we use the React router. So if you want to create pages, and it will be changed on the URL, okay, so you know that it is a single page, but if we want to convert the single page as a multi-page, we use the React router. So this basically helps us to create convert your single page application into multiple page. Okay, why do we need a router in React? So the same answer is, router helps us to create convert your single page application into multiple page, so that your application will look like it had multiple pages. Okay, how to authenticate on a or protect a route? So the question is, if you want to give some authenticate on a route or a particular route, like after login, if you want to go for the some route, or without login you can't go for that, you can provide restriction on that route. For that you have to create separate component protected route, and you can use the redirect based on the situation, whether the user is logged in or whatever the condition you want to provide. So you will use the redirect, otherwise you will use the normal route. Okay, what are fragments? Fragments are just basically to group up the your virtual DOM, okay, and it should be returned. Okay, so basically benefits of using fragment is that you can easily group them, okay, like an XML, and you can return. Okay, so it will not render in your normal real DOM. Okay, so for that you can use like react.fragment. Okay, and inside you will write your all codes, okay, JSX codes, okay, and you will close this, okay. So the short form of this one is that you can also write like this. This is the short syntax for fragment, okay. You just write it empty, okay. So how to use CSS in React? So basically to use CSS in React, we have 4 types. By using 4 types, you can assign CSS, okay. So the first one is inline CSS. So inline CSS, you can write like style equal to, inside this you will have to pass the object like width column 20 pixel. So this will be the inline CSS, okay. What is a JavaScript object? So basically what we do, we will create an object for this one where CSS my CSS, and you can use this one later like style equal to, you can also use like this. So this is the object type, and this third type is imported style CSS. So you can import all the style CSS in the main app, yes. So it will be used by all the child components and parent components. And fourth one is CSS module. If you want to create separately modules for the each component, so you can create CSS modules, okay, and you can use by importing and importing as a variable, and you can use that variable object to use the CSS written in your module CSS, okay. Now the next question is, what is Redux Thunk and what is Redux Saga? So basically, if you are using Redux, then you will require to maintain some asynchronous operations inside your application like API call or timeout or something. For that scenario, we will use the Redux Thunk or Redux Saga. So basically, both are alternates, and you can have one with your in your project. So basically, Redux Thunk is easy, but Redux Saga is some hard compared to Thunk to understand. Okay. So basically, Thunk is used to manage async operations, and similarly this one we also is used to manage the async operations, okay. But the benefit of using Saga is that we have more controls over the what you can say the operations. We have more you can just cancel your last API operations, last process you can cancel and take the latest. So we have the take latest or take every inside our Saga. So Saga has one benefit that you can take every or take latest means if you click 4 times and 4 times API is going to call. So if you want to, if you call this take latest, so it will take only your last call, last clicked event response. And if you write the take every, then it will take your all your click events. Okay. Whereas these are not present in Redux Thunk. So we have not more uh, commands on the asynchronous process here in the Thunk. So if you want to use more control, if you need more control in your application on the async operations, you go for the Redux Saga. Otherwise, go for the Redux Thunk. And basically, Saga is based on the generators concepts, which is in E6.5, ES6, sorry, ES6 version of JavaScript. So basically you write like function with asterisk. Okay, so you basically create two things. One for in Saga you just create the two things, one work process and the second is the watch. Okay, and you will just import these plugins inside your project and place this inside your middleware. Okay, so Saga is more complex than Redux Thunk. If you are a beginner, then go for Thunk. If you are immediate, uh, if you are an experienced like 3 to 4 years, then 2 to 3 4, then you can go for Saga as well. So Saga is more convenient to use because it has more powerful like operations like take latest, take every, take all. Okay, so in this session we have this much. Okay, in next session we will cover this all questions. Okay, so thanks for watching this session.